What's up? Welcome to episode 8 of LSQ. I'm Jenny LSQ. This is my podcast. It comes out every 3 weeks and features conversations with musicians and songwriters and producers. This episode, I'm excited to share an interview with The Kills' Alison Mosshart. I'll tell you more about that in a sec. Plus, every episode has something from my interview archive, which goes back to the late 90s. But this episode, it felt like the right time to share a 2007 conversation with Kanye West. Because, he's been saying a lot of stuff lately. So yeah, something to look forward to later on in the episode. Stick with me. But mainly, it's all about this conversation with Alison from The Kills. She's an incredibly talented singer, songwriter, performer, and visual artist. And seriously, if you've never seen her on stage with The Kills, her long-running and excellent band with guitarist Jamie Hintz, or The Dead Weather, her band with Jack White and others, dude, WTF, get to one of her shows. Her live vibe is transcendent. And The Kills actually have a handful of shows coming up. A couple in the Northeast this month, and then a couple on the West Coast in August, so get in there. Alison has been touring actually since she was a teenager, initially in a punk band called Discount, and you'll hear her talk about how a DIY foundation has really served her well, and about how she sort of trains to perform at the level that she does. Sometimes she accidentally knees herself in the face on stage, but, it's all in a day's work. So let's get into it. Alison Mosshart of The Kills on LSQ. Thanks for having me over in the midst of
no problem, I'm sorry.
Home repairs and all sorts of shit.
Everything. It's all good.
What interlude am I joining you during? I mean, I know that The Kills are touring coming up in May. Mm-hmm. And obviously, List of Demands, the cover, came out just recently. Yep. I want to talk a little bit about that. But yeah, more generally speaking, I mean...
Where are we?
Yeah, where are you? Just what's happening for you in 2018 beyond the tour dates you've announced for The Kills?
I'm still recovering from that 19 straight months of touring we just did. Sorry, I'm chewing.
She's hungry. Let her eat.
I'm still hungry from then. Oh, no. Yeah, kind of figuring out how to be home, and then I'm never really home, but getting geared up for the next thing, always, taking care of myself, even though I have a cold, doing everything I can not to be sick. I have an art show coming up in Mexico City.
Oh, nice. When's that?
Very soon. The opening is May 3rd.
Oh, great.
May 3rd and May 4th are the openings for it.
So sort of just right before you start playing shows.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to Mexico City pretty soon in a couple of weeks' time. And I'm going to be an artist in residence there and paint in a studio.
Oh, wow.
Kind of live in Mexico City for a hot second.
Have you done that sort of artist in residence thing before?
I have done it before. I've done it at a place called Hedgebrook on Whidbey Island off the coast of Seattle.
Okay.
It's an incredible experience. That's very different than what this is going to be. They're giving me studio space, and I'll go there every day and just work. I hope they give me a boombox, too. I don't know what to do about music. Maybe I should bring speakers. Anyway, I'm just gearing up for this.
Yeah.
But I've painted the show already. So the show's done, but I'm going to go and paint, just see how inspired I can be there and what I see and what, see what happens, really. It's an experiment.
Yeah. And so I know that you've had shows sort of on and off, art shows in recent years. When did that seem like something that you wanted to really set aside time to pursue and not just have it be a thing you would fit in, or was the first thing to get sacrificed if you got busy? Or has it always been equally in the mix, sort of as it is now?
It's not always been equally in the mix, but it started with being asked to be part of a show. I had a lot of work. I paint all the time. So thankfully, I paint quickly, and thankfully, I have tons of it. And when I was asked to do that show in New York all those years ago, I sent 7 pieces, and I showed up at the opening, and it went great, and I sold everything, and it was a fantastic experience. And then ever since then, I've just been lucky enough to be asked to do, art fairs and group shows and solo shows. And it's exciting, but I don't really feel like I have to move things around or make time for it or squeeze it in. I kind of, like, everything fits together if you want it to fit together, you know? And this is only 2 weeks of my life being in Mexico City, which could easily be spent just being at home in Nashville in my studio, doing the same damn thing. So, you know, and I'm sure I'll learn a lot, and I'm sure I'll probably write songs while I'm there, and, you know, I'm sure it will be great creatively just to be in that environment. So, yeah, I don't know. I never think about that, I don't ever stop one thing to make room for something else. I always feel like there's room for everything all at once, which is why I have a cold and why I'm starving and I've not had any time to eat today. Something's got to give, but it's not the work.
I'm intrigued about the idea that you imagine, because obviously this is what you've done, that the painting and ideas for songs mesh and come together in the same space or whatever. And was that always how it was for you? I mean, when you first found that writing songs was a thing you gravitated toward as a kid, like, did all of the creative things seem to be, you know?
It's all the same family to me, and it's all the same part of my brain, and the same need and the same desire and the same, like, impulse, you know? Painting for me is almost like another form of performing. Sometimes I like painting in, like, rooms crowded full of people, and I don't know what that is. Like, I like to go to bars and write in bars because there's just tons of shit going on around me. I feel completely at peace and alone. And it's weird, and I'm like that, so I think the why I like being on stage. There's something about, like, things moving and noises and lights, and I like writing in the car when I'm driving because there's so much stuff. Like the vision changes every second. All of it, it's all the same to me.
A lot of stimulation.
Yeah.
That's sort of like in a cloudy layer around you. It's
yeah,
like,
it helps
it's
me
available, but it's not
distracting. It helps me think very clearly.
And so when you were, what were the sort of earliest, like, little kid creative things that you did?
Well, I always drew and painted. My mom was a high school art teacher when I was growing up. And so that's basically what she would give me to do, you know? As a little kid, it would be like, here, sit down, here's a piece of paper, here's all this stuff. And lucky for her, I really enjoyed it and didn't move. I sat there and played with all the stuff. You know, I liked making pictures. And that carried on through my entire childhood. Never went away. Music was the same thing. I was just obsessed with music. I would stay up all night as a little kid, like, listening to the radio on headphones, just not ever sleeping, just listening and listening and listening and listening to anything and everything. And
just the local, like, top 40 radio station kind of thing.
Loved top 40.
Yeah.
It was all about it. And my dad, he's a used car dealer. When I was a kid, like, he would buy a car, and this was at the time when, of course, like, the only music options in cars was tape decks, and so he'd buy these used cars, and they would just have, like, tapes floating all around on the floor, and, like, he'd clean these cars out and bring me home all the tapes. So my music collection was very strange. Literally, my music collection was, like, from a used car lot.
It's like some Skinner, some Run DMC.
You just never know. Yeah. So, you know, I got a little bit of everything going on, and I loved it all. And
then you had you had a cassette boombox or something? Or
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I had stereos. I was very into stereos. I went through a period of time where I thought that if I took apart a stereo, I could put it back together again. I realized that I'm not like an inventor, but I thought I was when I was little. Took apart everything, put it back together. Why isn't it playing? I don't understand. I was really into MacGyver as a kid, so this is why I thought I could do that.
I thought that chewing gum would fuse it back together.
I tried
worked
it all.
on MacGyver.
But yeah, I was really into stereos and boomboxes. I had quite a few of those.
So the things that you found yourself listening to on purpose, again, like, I don't know if it was for you. I mean, for me, you know, we would tape, wait for the song to come on.
Tape the radio.
On the radio.
Yeah.
And so then you'd be missing the first 5 seconds of it, and you'd have the beginning of a commercial at the end of it.
Yeah.
But if you really liked a song, that's what sort of you would do is, or
exactly.
go buy the single maybe for a brief period of time.
I had some singles, yeah. My dad brought home some singles for me.
But when you there's the tapes coming in from Dad that you have no control over what those are, and there's the music on the radio that you have no control over. But what were the things that you taped? What were the things that you wanted to be able to listen to over and over again on your own?
That came from the boys next door that lived next door to me. There were like some kids in high school. At least one of them was in high school, and he had a lot of friends that would come over. And they had built a ramp in like the cul-de-sac, like right next to my house growing up. And they would skate after school every day, and they had a boombox, and they would play all this really awesome punk music, you know? And that's when I really knew, that's like very much when my opinions were formed about what I liked musically. You know, that happened, and when my dad brought me home a Led Zeppelin cassette, which I played so much until it broke. I mean, I was just like, no, this is so good, you know?
This is the coolest thing
At first,
ever.
I just liked the music constantly on, like anything and everything, but, you know, gradually it developed. Like, no, I like guitars, and I like really crazy singing. I like, you know, fast, and I like it. So it sort of developed that way. And the skateboarding scene, which I was completely obsessed with as a child and then into my early teens, it was so interlinked with music and art and the kind of art that I loved. And like, I loved skateboard art, and I was really I really gravitated towards that, and it kind of sculpted my musical taste and my artistic taste, and from like a very young age. So I have a lot to thank for that scene at that time, because it changed. You know, when I was in high school, the music surrounding that scene changed, the fashion, the style.
That was the zone.
At that point, I was already on tour, you know, doing
your
what I
band.
do. Yeah.
Because your band was on tour by what, like 97 or
Even
so?
earlier.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I was 14 when I first went on tour, and my musical tastes were totally like, you know, I loved everything on Discord. I loved like, you know, like hardcore punk, and
So that's what these kids were playing, is
Yes.
like Discord Records shit.
and they could get the
Late
hands on all of
80s,
it.
late 80s kind of
Yes.
stuff, right?
Yeah. That's what I loved. Many of those bands I never got to see. I mean, I was too young to go to shows. I'd played more shows than I'd actually seen, you know, by the time I was playing shows, which is crazy.
That's awesome.
I always just hoped there was a cool band I could check out at my show, because, you know, it was just that kind of thing. I grew up in a really small town that didn't have music venues. There was not a place to play. If we wanted to do a show, we rented a building and put a show on. So that was very common among that scene, like that kind of music, those kind of bands, our age, was to put on these events that we wanted to go to. And I spent quite a few of my years touring in that kind of environment, you know, like house shows, schoolhouse shows, women's center shows, skate park shows, things
There's
like that.
no substitute for that kind of shit, though, in a way.
Well, it's a real learning curve. I mean, I'm so glad for that education. I know how to book a tour. I know how to make a T-shirt. I know how to make a zine. I know how to get people to come to shows. I know how to make a record. I know, you know, like I know how to drive the van. I know how to read the map. I know how to every little tiny thing. And there was never like, we all had to do all of it all the time to make it work. And so there wasn't like one side of the business where I was like, not me. It's like, no, you're getting on the phone. And you know, every little thing. So I value that education so much, because later in life, when things get a little bigger, you know, I don't shy away from those things or being involved or know what's going on, you know.
Right, because you know nobody's
going to... I see a lot of people who do.
Right, because you know nobody can bullshit you, because you know all of it.
Yeah, especially like some young club promoter who's just put his foot in the door, and I'm like, I've been doing this for over 20 years. That's not how it works. Yeah. It ain't gonna work with me. Maybe you're, you know, so you run into that all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm just so thankful that I know better, you know?
Yeah.
It's great. I wouldn't trade that time or sleeping in a van with like 6 people on the side of the road for anything, you know? Thank God I did it. Primarily so I never have to do it again.
So the earliest touring that your band Discount did, which was the first band that you had with friends, right?
Yeah.
How did you get tours initially, when there was just some local shows and you're underage and that whole thing? Did you just sort of get the book your own goddamn tour
Absolutely.
zine and stuff?
Maximum Rock and Roll. I mean, man, I was pen pals with people all over the country. we wrote letters back then. We sent people, tapes. We sent tapes to other bands and to clubs. I don't know what I mean a club, but like this guy you've heard of in Santa Barbara that does shows in his basement. Like you send him the tape. And you hope you can get booked, and you just put together an itinerary, and you make calls, and you write letters, and you wait for responses, and then you put it together. And sometimes you're on the road, and you're like, you don't have a show the next day, and you want one, and you talk to people in town, or figure out where you can play the next day. You walk around all day telling people about it. It was awesome, and it always worked.
And did you like it right away, the existence on the road?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I was completely like in from the word go. I loved it. Growing up, my parents did this wonderful thing for me. They loved to travel. So what we did was my dad would buy like a van or something like that, and we would all get in it and just drive around the entire country for 3 months until I had to go back to school. No destination.
That's awesome.
Exactly. Like maybe a few relatives we were going to hit like here and there, but it was just like campgrounds or wherever. I'm not an outdoorsy person. I won't sleep outside, but nor is my dad. Thank God. He's like, nope, we're inside of the AC, inside the van. But I just always loved that moving and not knowing what town I was going to wake up in and what the next place was going to be like. It was all a big adventure to me as a kid. It was never a drag. I loved it. And I'm thankful for that, because that constant movement really agreed with me from a young age. And so I was never bummed about, I don't know if I'm going to get to see my bedroom for a month and a half. It was like, it'll be there.
Right.
I had no, like, I'm not like a creature of comfort. Like, it's all, the adventure far surpasses the knowing. And I liked that so much. So I was a perfect candidate for that kind of job.
It makes sense as well, though, that you find in a moving vehicle to be a creative space.
I think it's so wonderful. Yeah.
So during those summers, were you hopping around a little bit in time? Were you writing songs in your head in the van over the summer
always,
as a little kid?
Yeah, not for any purpose other than to entertain myself, but always.
Yeah, so it would just be a melody in your head that you would try to remember.
It was words. I just write. I write all the time. I write a lot for no reason. I just write. It's something I just have to do. And so I always did that when I was young. I always wrote songs, but just like poems, basically.
Right.
Notebooks and notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of them. I also like to write down everyone's license plate number. I went through a phase where I had like a complete book of like every single license plate that we passed on the highway for 3 straight months. Even those kinds of things, I'll write them down. It goes back to like MacGyver, my crime stopping days. Oh no.
Wow.
Yeah, I just liked it. I like that. There's something so peaceful about it, but ever changing.
Do you think that there are, when you look, I don't know if you ever go back and look at any of your writings from that long ago, but from what you remember about the kinds of words that interested you, the kinds of rhythms that interested you, there were kinds of things that interested you, do you feel like there are some constants that still...
I don't look back at them, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I do know that I've always used it as a tool to express any kind of confusion that I'm feeling about anything, and that's my method of trying to figure things out, is to write about them or sing about them or paint about them or do something about them.
Right.
And so that will always be the case for me. That's always been my method of just kind of getting along and dealing with things. So I can't imagine there ever being a time in my life where I'm not confused about something, or there is no problems, or there's nothing to figure out. So... yes.
Yeah.
But I haven't looked back at those things. One day I think I will, but right now I'm just too busy writing more of it.
Yeah. What have you found in the various collaborators that you've had over the years is what intrigues you about, letting someone else engage with what you're making in that way?
Because I think we're all really similar. I think we all chose this because we have that side to us that needs to do it, that loves it so much. And in that environment with someone like that, you don't even need words. You just understand each other, and you can make cool shit. And I think if this is like the life that you've chosen in the art form that you do, you already get along on a level that doesn't need to be explained.
Right, it's subatomic or something.
Yeah, there's just already, you're like, oh, that's my brother, that's my sister. You know what I mean? we're all kind of in this together.
And with like people like Jamie or Jack or something like that, can you tell sort of right away, like within early moments of just meeting that person?
Yes,
yeah,
very much. Yeah, immediately. I don't even have to talk.
That's cool.
Yeah. I guess that's a little gift we all get. You know what I mean? It's like everyone has their thing or something like that, and that's ours. And it's interesting. It's really interesting. It's so interesting to go into a musical situation with somebody that you maybe don't like know on like a friendly level, like you haven't gone to dinner or done anything like that. But you get into a room in that environment, and you immediately, it's like you've known each other forever, and you can. There's like a different language going on. Like a unity that, unless you experience it, you can't really write down what that's called. I don't know.
Yeah. And also just the idea that I'm sure you grow as a songwriter yourself just from being able to bounce ideas off of people who are talented.
It's so interesting to see everyone's methods and the way that their minds move at different speeds in different ways, like how one idea leads to another idea. Who's always like, this person would have gone to that idea, but this person goes to that idea. This person like went backwards out the door and is doing that upside down now. You never know, like, and that's what's so fun about working with other people, is that it's like, oh God, there is 1,000 ways of doing this. There's not a right or wrong way, and it makes you feel like, especially for someone like me who's not musically trained, and if you told me to play a chord and on a guitar, I would not know where it was. I don't know what that is. I just know how to do it for me,
right,
and make it work for me, for what I need it to do. And and there's a lot of people I've met like that who are like some of my favorite guitar players who are like, play a C, and they're like, what? Sorry? What? Like,
yeah,
that's cool. And that makes me feel like anyone, if you love something enough, you find your own footing with it, you find your own way, and that makes music really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be unafraid.
It's the same with painting. I've been to school for painting and art, and I did a couple years in college for it, and I found it almost offensive to be told how to use my materials because I developed my own way. It was like a certain paint or a certain kind of thing. I had a way of using it, or I had a relationship with it or a feel for it. That was not what I was supposed to be doing, but you know what I mean? You kind of, like, if you're not trained, you kind of invent things all the time.
Right.
And that's really cool. That can go really wrong too, by the way. Terrible. Like, why isn't it working? Well, it's because, God, you have to mix it with something else, like, it's not like...
That's my problem with cooking. I'm like, can I just make... It's like, do not combine those flavors. It's disgusting.
Yeah, you've just made vomit. Congratulations. Yeah. No, I know.
Eat it now.
It's all about that, though. It's trial and error. Find what works for you.
Have you ever had a collaboration that didn't pan out, or have you ever worked with a collaborator? Not that I'm asking for a specific example, but... Yeah, have you ever had an experience that didn't quite work that kind of taught you about the... Yeah,
sure. I mean, there's things that people might think that work, like that person might be really happy with it, but I don't really think any boundaries were pushed, or I think it could have been 100 times better if someone was open to taking the risk. But everybody wants a different thing, and in that situation, like, especially if I were to go sing on someone else's record or do something for like a TV show or something, those people have a very clear idea about what they want, and your role changes. So I'm not being the creator, I'm being like the instrument. So it's a different mode of thinking altogether. So I might walk away thinking, it's not my favorite, but it doesn't matter because it suits their purpose perfectly.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I don't dwell on it. I don't think about it, and I don't actually even see a reflection of myself in it. I feel like I went in and it was part of a process of a vision that I'm happy with not being my own.
Right. But the things that are more satisfying on a deeper level are obviously the things where
that's when magic happens, and that's really rare. You do something, you didn't even know the person, and you go in and you do something, and you are just completely on the same page, and something really cool happens that neither of you expected. When you're open for that, really cool things can happen. That happens. So it's really hit or miss, but I find all of it enjoyable.
I'm guessing that with Jamie, it was probably pretty much immediately that once you started recording some of these ideas that you felt like, oh, this is really special and exciting.
I feel like we complement each other very well, and we can go on our own journeys, and they always meet back up and create something that we never even dreamed of making, and that's the cool thing about us, because we have different writing styles. We're good at completely different things and bad at completely different things, and it's nice to have that. You got to have that when you're working with other people. Sometimes you can't have two people that both are really great at like one thing, completely shit at the other side of it, because then you got like a gaping hole, you know, because you can never quite push through. So I don't know. It's always a journey with him. I mean, I always feel like, God, it feels like we just started all the time, which is insane to say after how many years has it been? Like 16 years, 17 years. Yeah, we're still figuring it out.
That's awesome though. Yeah, there's room to grow in there.
Totally.
When did you first start to feel like you found yourself as a performer on stage? Like, was it in Discount?
Still working on it. Still have no idea. Yeah, that's what makes it so exciting. I think that's why I'm obsessed with it. You talk to any performer that is like the performer that blows your mind, and you try to ask them that question, and they just have no idea what they're doing. And that's like, that always blows my mind. And then when someone asks me, and I'm like, I know I've been doing this for so long, but I feel the same fear every night before I go on stage. Like, I want to be James Brown, but I'm not, or I want to be, you look up to these people or whoever, and it's not just James Brown, but, and you just see this immense amount of confidence and like, cool, up there. And it's just like total control of the audience. That is the hardest thing in the entire world to figure out how to do. But because the energy in any room, in any city, in any country is different. And you don't know what you're walking into, ever. You don't know what kind of mood the collective is going to be in. And what you're doing as a performer is reacting to whatever they're putting out there. And you give them your best, and if nothing comes back, you're doing changes. It starts to change and become something else, and you're reading the room, and you're trying to get everyone to be one. And sometimes nobody will let you do it.
Yeah.
And it's really, really hard.
Do you know if James Brown had stage fright at all?
I have no idea what James Brown was doing, but he sure could dance.
I mean, because I wonder if it's even age quote unquote James Brown or Tina Turner or something like that.
I don't know.
If even they experience that kind of
no one rolls out of bed and walks on stage like it's exactly the same thing. There's such an emotional transition between not being on stage and being on stage that has to take place in order for you to be up there. There's like this weird thing has to come from somewhere, like, and fully take you over, and you have to submit to it. So it's a gamble every night. Is it going to take me over, or am I going to be on the outside of it this whole show? And the weirdest thing is half the time people can't tell a difference, and that's like, whoa. There's shows I would play, and I'm like, the whole thing was like slogging through mud. Like, I felt like I was never in it. And people are like, that's the best time I ever saw you play. And you're like, fuck off. Like, it was hell, and I couldn't wait to not be on stage anymore. And those are the worst shows of your life, because you have to wake up the next day and do it again and think like, how can that never happen again? Even though it's all in your mind. It's totally, know. And then
but the good ones are the ones that fuel you, right?
You're floating. You don't even know how you did it, and you can't even remember it. It's like a dream.
Do you in any way kind of train? I mean, are you a runner or anything? Is there anything you do that you feel like, okay, this is the closest I can imagine to putting myself in that physical and mental space?
I could do a lot more, but I do. The older I get, I have to do. I do a lot. I try to be really healthy, aside from all the cigarettes that I smoke, which, that needs to go away at some point. But I do a lot of Pilates, I do a lot of stretching, I do a lot of like strengthening stuff, so that when I throw myself backwards, I don't break my back in half, or I hurt myself all the time on stage. I knee myself in the face, I give myself a concussion, and I keep on going, and then I'm like, well, one of these days I'm just not going to get up. You know what I mean? So I got to just be careful and like make sure that my body will bend those ways that I think it can when I'm really under the spell, you know?
The knee reaching the face is impressive.
It's very easy to do. I can demonstrate it for you. It's a common mistake. Yeah. When's the last time you kicked yourself in the face? Well, I can tell you. Yeah. You know, it's hard. So all the traveling is really hard on your body, and planes and stuff especially. I say I like moving, but I do not like flying. It really, really messes you up, you know, physically. So there's a lot of just like, you feel like you spend your whole 23 hours of the day and night training for this 1 hour. Like everything goes into that, and down to what you eat, what you drink, how much water you have, like how tired you are. Everything is just like every little decision that you make is, you know, I mean, I know at this point is going to affect what happens up there.
Yeah.
And if I know that I'm doing everything right, then I get that extra burst of confidence that I'll have the energy when I need it. You know, just knowing that or thinking that is a good thing, because if I think, oh, I'm fucked, like I haven't slept, and I'm gonna take that up there with me and worry the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna worry, or at least I'm gonna worry before I get out there. I used to get away with a lot. You know, you really bounce back in your 20s. You're just like, yeah, that's fine. All my bruises are gone. Like everything's good. You know, everything's fine. That ankle I twisted seems to be on the right way today. And you just carry on. But now I actually feel stuff.
Yeah.
I can feel it.
So that back bend is
so
no
that's
joke,
okay.
man.
I feel like it's a good thing for me. I'm so thankful to have something in my life that makes me have to think about those things. You know, I'll always know how I am because I have to use my body like that, and I have to be healthy like that. So I'm thankful to have to actually pay attention to it. Because I don't ever want to lose track of that, you know. I don't ever want to be unhealthy and feeling terrible all the time and not even knowing that I am.
You seem to be a person who likes to have a lot to think about anyway, a lot of things to
juggle.
Yeah, exactly. Which I can relate to that sort of thing. I mean, I think like if you realize that about yourself, that you want there to be a lot going on, kind of, then it's like easier to find happiness.
I feel like this responsibility, and I don't know where it comes from, but again, I'm glad I have it, but I feel this responsibility in knowing what I can accomplish and how much I can do. And so I have to do it. And on days when I don't know if I'm coming or going, or even after like long tours where I'm just like, man, I haven't been able to be creative for a month because every free spare moment must be sleeping. Like I'm only sleeping 4.5 hours a night at this point. Like I'm up for the airport. Like all of that, you know, you start to just like part of your soul just starts to kind of drain. You're like, I'm not at my full potential. So when I get off the road, it is like gangbusters. It is like, I'm just like, okay, every single day I'm going to do like this 95 things. And I like that. My mom's actually like that too. I don't think it comes from nowhere. She's like 72 and she's up till 4 a.m. every day doing art in her studio. She's always awake.
She paints as well.
She paints. She does crafts. She does whatever. She'll refinish these chairs for me.
Wow.
You know, she kind of is like jack of all trades. She just likes doing stuff and making things. And so I get that hysteria from her.
So, I want to talk about the List of Demands reparations cover.
Okay.
And what inspired you guys to record that particular song? And also, just I know there's tour dates surrounding it. Was there an urge to kind of make something this year? Or are there more new songs kind of starting to come together, and that was a thing that happened in the midst of that?
Kind of all of those things. I mean,
yeah.
That song was one of many, that we've been blasting backstage on tour for all that time, for that 19 months. It was a song that Jamie and I just loved, that we played to get like all revved up to go on stage. And then, I don't know whose idea it was that we needed to go record some covers for something. that comes up. I'm like, can you guys get in the studio for a few days and do this? And we're like, what should we do? And that was on the list. No pun intended. And and I loved it, and it was at that point I like heard the song a million times. I'm like, that would be great. And we went in and we recorded Step and Razor, and then we got to that one, and we were just like, how are we gonna do this? Saul's version's 300 miles an hour. And it really is so fast. It's like, I don't know how to sing like this. I can't even breathe. This is unbelievable. It's like drowning. Really had to redesign my breathing patterns for this one. But it just turned out so great, and we loved it so much. And I think it was a reaction from people we played it to that it was like, we could take the song to radio. You should do a video for this. Maybe we should do some shows, and that kind of like all snowballs. So if the songs had sucked, we probably wouldn't be talking right now, and I probably wouldn't be going on tour for, in the summertime, or at least as much as I am going to be. But it's great. It's great that people loved it, and
well, it must feel good also just to bring a song that had an audience when Saul Williams released it, but to bring it to an audience that may not have heard it. It
just feels like a very important song right now,
exactly.
And it's always been a very important song. But right now, like I think that was the other thing about like I wanted to sing those words. I felt like the way he wrote that was so interesting that you could apply it to so many people, like issues. It was just such a, like...
marginalized groups of people, you mean, yeah.
But, like, anybody. Me.
Right.
I mean, I could sing it and just completely relate to it in, like, 25 different ways. It's just such a great song.
Yeah.
Like, the words are so powerful. And I was like, I know this has been released, and I know other people have covered it, but the song just needs to keep being heard. It needs to have a life that just, like, keeps on going. And so it felt really important when we were doing it. I was immediately like, this has to be it. And so it makes me really happy that people like it, and then it is getting it another kick in the ass.
Yeah, I really liked what Saul wrote for...
It was beautiful.
About, the song.
Genius is crazy. Every time he writes something like, stop it. Stop it some more.
I encourage folks who've heard the song, if you go to the Kills website, there's a note that Saul wrote about the inspiration for the song, back when he wrote it, and also just sort of his appreciation for the cover of it. And so for now, you're going to do that tour, and then later on this year, some more art stuff, and enjoy your fucking life, right?
Yeah. I hope so.
Next time you have a chance to do something that isn't a creative assignment that you've given yourself, is there any kind of pure unplug, disconnect, lay down somewhere?
I am not good at that. I don't like it.
No.
I really hate vacation. I've tried to, at the insistence of my friends, to try it out. And this is how I vacation. I bring all my shit with me. All my paints, all my papers, my guitar, like everything, because I'm just like so worried that I'm going to have an idea and want to do something and not going to be able to because I'm on fucking vacation. So vacation for me has turned into like, how do I make it set up like my area? Like I need to get like everything going. It's just like I'm at my house, but I'm like looking at a beach, and I'm totally allergic to the sun and don't care about the beach. I'm making this little area. And so I'm trying to learn to love vacation, but I still don't think I'm doing vacation. One day, guys, when I learn how to do vacation, I'll let you know. I suck at it. Everyone tells me I suck at it too.
Listen, girl, you vacation the way you vacation.
Thank you.
Don't let anyone tell you how to vacation.
Thank you. It's not that I'm not having a good time, everybody. I'm having a great time. My idea of a good time is just a little bit different. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good place to end.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Alison.
You're welcome.
So yeah, the Kills are going to be playing some shows coming up. You can find all the details on that over at thekills.tv. Up next on episode 8 of LSQ, it's about 10 minutes worth of an interview I did in summer of 2007 with Kanye West. Then 30 years old, Kanye was on the cusp of releasing his third studio album, Graduation. He had already shared the song Stronger. And, I didn't really at that point have too many preconceptions about Kanye. I had loved his first two albums. He had started to be a firebrand for controversy already at that point. I'll post online via Twitter a link to the article I actually wrote as a result of our interview, which was about 40 minutes in total, and as I say, you'll just hear about 10 minutes worth. And the starting point here, in a bit of conversation that will address topics like arrogance versus insecurity and his marketing of himself, we're starting with Kanye talking about how he considers it to have been a bold move to put out Stronger as the first single, considering that it was kind of an unexpected foray into dance music. So let's get listening.
I've never seen this type of thing right here before, and I think I have my finger on the pulse of what's good. I think I have just a taste level that that was raised in pop culture. I always liked things that were pop the best. Usually a lot of people who are considered geniuses have something against stuff that's pop. I liked NSYNC. Bye. I went to Justin's concert. I was mad he didn't do any of the NSYNC songs. And let's not even say pop. Let's say I say pop because even though it has a negative connotation, I like forcing people to really look at the definition of what it is. Like, pop is not really a bad thing,
Right.
Because you just know nothing better than Michael Jackson Thriller album.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than that fucking outfit he wore for Billie Jean with the tuxedo with the white shirt and the red bow tie.
Yeah.
And like the socks and stuff like that with the penny loafers. There's no higher, better outfit. And that was pop, and it was popular for a reason. I think maybe the best thing that I've done in the past, year might be that particularly, specifically, the glasses on Stronger. That might be the most, across the board thing that connects, maybe even more than the song, you know what I'm saying? So it goes from, a good idea. I wear a lot of hats.
Right.
So I'll take it from, a really, really great idea, fresh idea, and then I'll go into marketing mode, But I haven't been quite as good at marketing, as like 50 Cent or Jay or like Puff Daddy. The people, the people I would compare it to.
How so? I mean, in what ways do you think you could be better at marketing?
Just really capitalizing off of my popularity more.
Right.
But I think it's
meaning selling those glasses to anyone who wants them and making them, like, branding them as your thing.
Yeah, just really putting the right people around me that can really make that happen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that might be a shot, the shot to the people, but it gets frustrating sometimes because I do a lot of things and I figure out a lot of things on my own. But sometimes it just feels like, damn, it's got to be other people that can kind of just pick up that ball. So it's like, I've been trying to figure that thing out. So I don't have that down. I have, like, and pressing a 60,000 seat stadium down.
Yeah.
And like picking out a cool outfit or like coming up with an idea for glasses that people are like, oh wow, those are from the 80s, but I like those and I want to wear those. But as far as really, figuring out how to put myself in a position where I say, I don't have to do stadiums anymore. I don't have to perform anymore. Not that I wouldn't want to.
Right.
I haven't quite figured that out, and that's like frustrating for me.
Yeah.
So it's like a challenge in my life.
So the past few days, I've been reading your press kit, and I was like, honestly, like, if I read one more story that's like Kanye West is arrogant, like, I had to stop reading them after a while because I was just so, like, bored. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things I said in this conversation that a lot of people, especially people with low self-esteem or some lack of confidence themselves, will walk out the door and feel like, wow, that was really arrogant of him to say that. Like, the amount of times I refer to myself as a genius and shit, people would take that in a way, but it's actually me sitting back and saying, okay, These are people who are entertainers.
Yeah.
And now, let me step away from it being me and just talk about entertainers, or just talk about, okay, this is a guy on the TV screen now.
Yeah.
If I saw that, I would say, that guy is crazy right there, you know, like, that he's one of the ones and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I have because I don't do that, like, American covered up with bullshit thing, being a rapper and becoming a celebrity is like instant royalty. Yeah. The difference between rappers and royalty, they've always been trained on how to conduct themselves, you know, in public, and that make people feel a certain way. Okay. I had no training. I'm just a real person who always tried to move in a room full of no's, and always had to tell people, look, I'm gonna do this shit. Yeah. So now at the point where I like did it and people believe it, it's like I'm trying to figure it out and like how to not tell people that I'm not to do it anymore because it pisses people off. They're like, you're too dope. Get the fuck out of here. Pissing me off. It's like, you know, like sometimes really pretty girls ruin a party.
But I mean, I noticed as well that you said, as you've said a couple of times, that like that it's possible that sometimes the things that you say that are interpreted as being like cocky or whatever are things that you say to like kind of drive past, you know, actual insecurities or something like that. And I wonder, which would you say is more true? I mean, is true more of the time? Would you say more of the time it's the case that you're just speaking plainly in the way you see things, or that things that you say that are mistaken as arrogant are because
they're coming from a level of insecurity?
Or for like masking insecurity.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I could think of that I did to mask insecurity was when I came up with this pose. You know, that pose I used to always do and shit?
Which one?
I don't do it anymore and stuff like that. I just get on stage and kind of like, it was like this like pose. Like like this and stuff.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, you know, 3,000 people are looking at you like that. I'm like, just picture everybody naked thing.
Yeah.
So, but the shit I said was really the way I felt, and really the truth. I'm gonna say something that contradicts something that I've said in other interviews. I would be more teetering on the delusional side than the insecure side. Like,
in what way?
Like a little kid. Like little kids, you ask them, you know, what they want to be, and they'll name some shit. Some of them can never be. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's like all these journalists and all these people have been like trying to tell me the truth every time I say this shit that sounds so delusional. But what keeps fucking them up every year is I actually end up doing it. Like, fuck, what do we do now?
I think people want their celebrities to admit to being insecure so they feel like they can relate to them more, because everybody's insecure.
I do have insecurities and I do have fear, you know. Sometimes I'm like so insecure about possibly not ending up number one, you know. If I ended up being number two, like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this number two spot? I don't know what to do with this silver trophy type thing. Right. Like, I'm not coming prepared to fucking lose, but I'm going to do everything I can to get that number one spot. You know, and like award shows are kind of like championships for us. Yeah. So like, if I'm like putting as much work in as Jordan does, like the 100,000 free throws or whatever it is, if I get a technical foul, I'm gonna scream at the fucking refs. Yeah. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I put so much into this. Like, just give me a fair shake. Let's look at this and really be like, okay, what is, you know? And it's like, what can you do with the award shows? The shit is all set up, man. The shit is like wrestling. So now it's like, on one end, it's like, you get and so I think, and this must be the way wrestlers feel about their shit. It's like, okay, the shit is not real, but the thing that's real is those kids with the fucking t-shirts. Like, cool, look at my favorite wrestler. Yeah. So that's how it is. It's kind of like the amount of radio spins is not real. Yeah. The album sales are not real. And like connecting, like what's your connection with people, what's real is those kids with the t-shirts at your concert. Yeah. Everything else, this shit, all like, you know, I speak, shit gets paraphrased. You know, I'm just freestyling also, you know, like with a rap I can rewrite it. Yeah. In an interview, that's what I thought to say at 11 o'clock in the morning type shit, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, and closing, like, everything is a facade and perception. Everything is really the Matrix, and the only thing that's real is, like, the kids with the t-shirts at your concert.
Oh yes, we've reached the end of another episode of LSQ. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe so new episodes are right there waiting for you as soon as they come out. Plus, if you've been enjoying the show, maybe leave a rating or a review. Maybe? Also, you can reach me with feedback and questions, etc. on Twitter at JennyLSQ. And thanks to Alison Mosshart again for her time. Thanks to Kanye West circa 2007. And yeah, come back again in a few weeks. I'm not sure which episode it'll be yet. I haven't decided, but maybe Ben Gibbard of Death Cab for Cutie. Maybe Rostam. Still sorting it. Thanks for being a listener. Have a good one, y'all.